The world around us is hostile to the Word of God and to biblical values, but we are called to be salt and light, to stand for truth in a decaying culture. We are not called to run from the fire, but be willing to step into the fire. God has placed you at this time in history on purpose and for a purpose. Join us as we get better equipped to address civics and culture from a biblical worldview. Welcome to Into the Fire, powered by Dream City Church. Let's welcome our hosts Allison Furno and Debi Vandenboom.
Today's topic is Be the Light in Your Community. I have with me my guest host here, Sam Oriza.
Hello.
And we're joined by, I'm so excited about this one. We have with us Luke Meredith, who's a co-pastor of the Short Creek Dream City campus and also the what did you say?
Co-executive director of the Short Creek Dream Center.
Short Creek Dream Center up in Colorado City, Hilldale, Utah area, right on the border. We're so glad that you're here with us today.
I'm glad to be here. It's awesome.
Yes, so excited. Okay, so we know who you are, but give us a little background on how you came to Short Creek and who you are.
Gotcha. Okay, so
for people who maybe have never heard of you before.
Okay,
yes.
So in 1981, a child was born. No, I'm kidding. We're not
way back to day one.
Yeah, we're not going to go back that
Look
far,
who's talking, right? We get.
But I grew up not knowing God. And in a very, poor family. My mother suffered from addiction. So I didn't know a lot of hope, but I just knew, grit your teeth and move forward in my youth, right? And then I joined the military so that I would have some kind of chance, some college money as a roof over my head coming out of high school. Because I had moved out when I was 16 years old on my own. So joining the military was my best hope to have some stability. And I really joined for the college money at the time. And then war happened, 9/11, in 2001. And then in 2004, I went to Iraq. And I experienced things that I didn't know how to cope with, not knowing Jesus, not having a body of believers, not having folks to share with like that. And so eventually those issues turned into drug abuse, and I lost my civilian nursing license. I ended up going pretty hard. I had a few heart attacks in my 20s from the things that I was doing, and I ended up at the Phoenix Dream Center. And I went there just to give them 30 days and see what happened. And 9 years later, I was still there.
Wow.
I was working there. So I came on as a staff member and ended up being the chief strategy officer there at the Phoenix Dream Center, and just getting more involved with Phoenix First Assembly, come Dream City Church, and just had a calling, had a love for working in ministry, and kept putting my hands to the plow. I went through the chaplain's training and just to get some more spiritual training. Got ordained through there, and then one day the director of the Phoenix Dream Center sat down, me and my wife, and said, I'd like you guys to go up and be the directors at the Short Creek Dream Center. Wow. And so the Short Creek Dream Center was about 3 or 4 years old at the time. And so my wife and I, we went up there to run it, help build the program. And I remember what was funny is going up there, one of our campus pastors here asked me, hey, they're going to open a church campus up there eventually too. Are you going to be the guy? And I'm like, no, I'm not the guy. And now I'm the guy. I happen to be there.
Yes.
I was around, so put my hat in the ring, and it has been an amazing ride. And so our mission there is not to just have a thriving dream center and a church, but to affect a town, to affect a culture. I mean, Colorado City is coming out of a cult-like religious oppression, and so the church hurt is deep, and we just want people, whatever we got to do in the church, out of the church, we want people to know just the hope and grace and everything that we have in Jesus Christ. So we're finding pretty unique ways to get that out there.
And so just to kind of we talked with Angel, actually. We had Angel on talking in general about some other things, but we mentioned Colorado City, and just if anybody is not aware of Colorado City, you're talking about church hurt. That was an FLDS community where the self-proclaimed prophet I told you I was going to be the one to make the noise. That someone who was self-proclaimed as a prophet and had a stranglehold on the entire community, basically, and nobody could do anything without him knowing it. And so there is a lot of deep-seated, either that they're still in that, like some people in the town are still following him, even though he's in prison for marrying, young girls and the illegal activities that he was doing. And other people are so hurt by what was happening that they don't want to have anything to do. So it's not an easy task. Not an easy task at all.
It takes a lot. It's just about a miracle to get somebody to open up to, the idea of, faith or religion again after everything they'd been through.
Well, and I was listening to you tell your story, and it's funny because you're just sort of saying these things, but I'm sitting here thinking, okay, really, your entire life is a miracle because you shouldn't be sitting here, right? I mean, you're talking about, I had a couple heart attacks in my 20s, and I'm like, I was like, wait a minute, time out. Okay, that's not something you just throw away a comment. Like, that's a big deal. Yeah. And being on, some of the drugs that you were on, I mean, people don't get off of those. Those are not drugs that are easy to get off of. And just the way that your life has been turned around is in itself a miracle. So then you've been part of a lot of miracle territory there. Yeah,
I didn't walk into a church. I mean, it took a body of believers doing things like the Phoenix Dream Center outreach and being there for folks and just finding different ways to love on them and love them. And I'll tell you the number one thing that reached me that you can take and reach people with is identity. Yeah. When somebody told me that that's not my identity, the doing drugs, the slinging drugs, whatever, that's just what I'm doing now, and I'm better than that, and I'm worth more than that, and that God loves me despite me. That's once I allowed that to settle into my heart, I wanted to quit doing what I was doing.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I also was not saved until I was an adult and had done a lot of stuff. And I agree that identity was really the biggest impact in knowing who you are. And then from there, the rest of it is like it makes more sense because once you know who you are and how God sees you versus how
then you can try and start acting like it. Yeah.
Right. Well, the power of that love, right?
Yeah.
Like loved people act differently. When you know it in your heart, it causes you to change. Yeah. So
even the things we're dealing with up in Colorado City are different, but people are people.
Yeah, it's very unique. Yeah.
People are people.
Showing them that they're loved and that even people from outsiders like ourselves can come in there and just care about them and not ask for anything in return. They start to open up that door to faith and a relationship with Jesus. So.
Yeah. So you guys do a lot of community outreach up there. What are some of the types of things that you do within the community?
Oh my goodness, it is so fun. Yeah. So we do a huge turkey giveaway. So the poverty rate in Colorado is still pretty high. 55% of the kids in the community at large live under the poverty rate. The average household size is like 7 to 10 kids. And so the food outreach, our food bank is really, really important. We have food bank every week, and then our turkey giveaway sees tons and tons of people. We partner with other churches and St. Mary's Food Bank and the Native American Reservation to make those things happen. We have probably the biggest Easter egg hunt that I've seen in a small town in my life. And just for an example there, a lot of the adults said, I've never had an Easter egg hunt. So we have a separate Easter egg hunt for the adults. And they got to wear a blindfold, and it's hilarious, and it goes great. So we try and just see what the community needs and fit it. We have a dental outreach, which is really, really big. Joyce Meyer Ministries helps us with that. And so throughout the year, we want to have one major outreach a month at least to go out there and reach the people and let them know they're loved.
Yeah. So the dental outreach, they come, like dentists come in and they just go and get free dental care. Is that what happens?
Yep. Yeah. Joyce Meyer Ministry sponsor that, so it's big. And they come through, and I think we serve over 100 people with fillings, extractions, and cleanings. Wow. And it's all people who wouldn't be getting that otherwise. And it's right there in our church building. Yeah. So they get to come and see what we're about and.
One way to get them in the door.
Yeah, we'll do it. We're shameless.
Right?
Yeah, we'll offer them anything.
Yeah. And I think this kind of goes with what we were talking about with Angel, but about how, the church does a better job of doing those kind of, right? You're talking about poverty rate and all those things that there are certain people in particular parties mostly, but in general that think that the government should be doing all of those things. They don't do a very good job of it. I mean, here you have a community that's a huge poverty level, and they were not getting the needs met. Those needs that you guys are. I mean, those are things that a lot of people think of that, the government should be providing the free dental care and the food and all these things. Well, they don't do a good do a good job with that stuff, right? And so then it's an opportunity for people of faith to come in and just do those things with no expectation of something in return.
You can't depend on the government. I mean, stability-wise, even those things go up and down. Different seasons, things are available or they're not. It's the body of Christ and God's people should be doing it and should be doing it with excellence. Like when it comes to recovery, we'll put somebody through a program and help them with sobriety maintenance, and we do it for, depending on the acuity, $26 to $51 per head per night. A regular government-funded rehabilitation center, it's $250 plus per head.
Wow. Wait, that's like,
so
what percentage is that?
That's 5 times.
Math.
Yeah.
We do it for 20% the cost, and got to throw this other day, we have better results. So it's, we're not sacrificing quality. Yeah. So we're doing things in a way that you just, I would tell people, go sit at the DMV for a while. Right. If you want the people that run that to run your social services, and I'm not sure what to tell you.
You're like, right. Yeah, but I want to scream that from like the mountaintop, like 20% less. Like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Well, and I think this is too, I mean, not to get, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but like, when they try to say that, if you're not going to spend all this money in the government, that you don't care about people. This is the attack of like conservatives, right? That they don't care about people because they don't want to spend billions of dollars in government slush money, right, to take care of people. But when you're talking about those statistics that you were just saying, that what nonprofits and what the church is able to do is a fourth or a fifth of the price. And has way higher success rates. It really is, it's a no-brainer. And which one is more compassionate, right? Which thing? Because obviously the government was not being helpful up there, really. I mean, I'm sure to a certain degree they are, but not. You guys have come in and done all of those things that people expect the government to do, and with a much better success rate.
And we're happy to do it too. The lady at the DMV is not as happy.
She doesn't get joy from it, right? That's what it is.
Well, and I was thinking with that, I know your next question, I think, is I'll
tie it back
together. But one of the things when I was thinking about this episode earlier this morning, I was thinking, okay, the verse that kept popping into my head is in Matthew 5 about let your light so shine before men. And just paraphrasing the rest of it, that they'll see those works, they'll see the fruit of that, and then they will recognize God in that. And that's what you're talking about, because you have a community that does not trust outsiders, that either is still entrenched and in bondage to a cult up there, or are so hurt by that they don't trust church. And so that you can't get those people into a church building easily. But this is a way that you can, and that was the title that we chose about the light being the light of the community, that you're able to go out into the community and shine your light by just, okay, we're giving you, here's, come get your teeth fixed, right? That's huge for people. Because when you have like teeth that don't work or in pain or that's a big deal. It really does affect your life, and those are things that we take for granted. 100%. That you just run to the dentist and get something. But for people that don't have that, that's a big thing. And those are simple things on our like we think of them as simple things, but they really are big things. And it's that letting your light shine before men.
Coming into the city, there typically, what you'd want to try and do if you're going into a new city with a Dream Center, Dream City setup, you start a little church, start a Dream City church, and hopefully you grow that to support a Dream Center. We knew we had to go the other way around. We couldn't come in Sermon on the Mount. They've been preached out. We had to come in Good Samaritan. And eventually build trust just by serving and serving and serving. And it took years of serving and not asking for anything to break down some of the walls with folks for them to really believe that we're just that crazy to just be there and serve.
Yeah, that's so good.
I love it.
Yes, so we're talking about taking the church outside of the four walls, right? And so how has that impacted your community, but also your local government in the town?
Oh, goodness. So I'd say quite a bit. So in building that trust, so I myself, I'm on the city council for Hilldale, Utah. And if I would have ran for city council the year we got up there, no way.
Yeah.
You know, we had to serve and build all that trust. And about 4 years after being there, I ran for city council, and I got the most votes out of 6 candidates. I'm the only person sitting on the council that wasn't born there in the city right now.
Oh, wow.
And that really just comes from us getting outside of the church. You know, it's one thing, we're very tuned to invite people into church. We have to be very intentional up there about getting out of the church. You know, the outreaches and doing things without, you know, preaching by our actions. You know, St. Francis Assisi or the Jonas Brothers, one of them said, I know that, you know, preach the gospel, use words if necessary.
Yeah.
So like my wife started coaching volleyball, and then I coached wrestling at the high school. So we're reaching out to the youth, the city council thing, the Chamber of Commerce. My wife is on local boards for mental health, coalitions, and just getting ingrained and showing that we're there to serve and put our hands to work. I think it really gained that trust. It wouldn't have worked right out the gate to start with the church and then the Dream Center, like I said.
Yeah.
So it's really, I mean, like a missionary, right?
Yeah.
That you have to go in and live among those people so that they have that. Because again, that's a community that does not trust church or outsiders, right? And you're both.
Well, then it just becomes home for us.
Right.
I mean, so much of the community has just, you know, welcomed us in a way that I'm at a point now where I don't have any other plans than to live, work, and die and be buried in Colorado City. It's just, it's home. I got a 4x4 and a horse and some guns. I mean, we're just fitting into the creek, man.
Yes.
It's just our kids have great friends in the community, and so we've been blessed just to be there and grow ourselves too.
That's really, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I was remembering, because I've been up there, right? So I went up. It's beautiful up there, right up against Zion National Park. It's just gorgeous. That park where you do some things there, right? That the outreach in that park. I don't know what it's called, but that backs up to Zion. And I remember even like some of when we did like a concert there, and seeing people like in the full prairie dress, because like the FLDS is still like floor length prairie dress, very. I don't know even know how you describe it, but
Modern or traditional?
Very traditionally dressed, right? Yeah. But I remember, like, as we're sitting there with the concert, that there were people kind of coming out of the woods, like there but not there, like they wanted to see. They were curious and they wanted to see what was going on, but they weren't fully. They didn't want to come all the way in, right? Because I don't know whether they're not allowed to or whether they just weren't.
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both. Yeah. So what is that like? Like, what is some of the things that you have to kind of tread, because you've got to, like I said, you've got a mixed bag, right? You've got, but most of the community is either in FLDS or coming out of FLDS, right?
So right now,
is that
probably accurate? 10 to 15% of the community is actually left in the church and faithful to the old
still
prophet
faithful.
In the old church,
Okay.
There's a few thousand that have moved to a city about an hour away in Cedar City, and so we have some outreach efforts and some partners
that are still FLDS that moved out. Is that what you're saying?
Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of media attention for Colorado City and Hilldale, so they got some orders to move away to a little bit larger city. So we have anybody who wants to transition out, we're there for them at a moment's notice, and to hopefully help them, de-traumatize and move forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's all consuming, right? I mean, that it's a cult, but that it's very all consuming, where they had complete control over everything, right? They controlled even who you were allowed to marry. Like, you didn't choose who you were going to marry. You were told you're marrying this person. Yeah. And men had, I mean, how many, 20 something, 60, depending on who you are, right? Yeah. Multiple wives.
Depends on how blessed you are. Yeah.
And, or how much control you have, right? But of all ages and those just, there's so much control. And I know, like, I remember seeing a thing where he even had like the phone lines tapped and, just complete control over that. That's a really hard thing, I think, for people to leave, like when you're conditioned.
Well, it's like your whole reality is like changing, right? Too.
Most of the folks in the FLDS are victims more than perpetrators, and when you start to wonder about transitioning out, from what I understand, you're worried about losing your family.
Right.
It's all you've ever known, and you probably can't take most of your family with you. And so it's not like you can just go try it out and come back. Once you're out, you're stuck out. We've got some close friends. One of my closest friends, about half of his dozen brothers are still in.
Wow.
And every now and then he'll say, "Oh, my brother so-and-so came out," and I'm showing him the Star Wars series and things like that. I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds cool." So yeah, it's very, and that's why it's really hard to bring somebody right into a life of Christianity or faith. A lot of folks want to go explore and kind of go, off the
This is
other
a
way
big
for
risk for them. I mean, it really, and from their
huge.
perspective, right? It's a big risk because you are literally leaving everything, your home, your family, everything to come. And so, of course, it's going to be a little bit slower. I mean, that makes sense to me that would be a hard thing to, because you're conditioned. It's like Stockholm syndrome almost, where you're conditioned to have that. So it really is amazing. And you have had people like flee, right, and come decide to leave that and jump in and be that. I mean, that's a big deal.
We've had people come right to the Dream Center or ask us to pick them up and have some of their kids with them, or as many as they could bring.
Right, because that's hard too, right? They probably can't bring all of them. Depending on their age and boys and girls, and right, there's a lot of
True.
Yeah.
So I think the way we're reaching out probably translates pretty well to almost any small town that needs a lot of outreach. Is really getting infused in local initiatives, because if they see that you're there just to preach, just to evangelize, they might instantly be like, "Well, I don't have anything I need from you then," because they're not there yet. And to see that we're really there to live there and to know people and to be friends and to love it, and we love it. Then also you're a Christian, like, okay, maybe they'll get kind of close and then see where it goes from there. So
That
start
goes back to
asking
that use
questions.
words when necessary, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So,
But I do think it. I'm sorry.
it's okay.
But I do think it translates to even like, okay, and I'm thinking in Phoenix, it's a totally different reason why. But you have today in modern America, you have a whole huge population of people that are very turned off to church, that are very hardened. And have a lot of baggage, right? Have a lot of, whether it's from drugs, from abuse, from, whether it's self-inflicted or from someone else or whatever, but that it is, they're not as willing to come into a church building. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I love Dream City, just all of the campuses, is because it is very outreach, food banks and the Dream Center and these places where people can be, where you're being the hands and feet of Jesus out in the world rather than expecting everybody to come to you. Because I do think, obviously every situation is different, and every town, every place that you go is going to have its own unique needs.
I was trained at a church on the street where it's, the 4 spiritual laws and the Romans Road. And, I can meet somebody at a bus stop and take them from handshakes to a sinner's prayer in 5 minutes.
Yes.
But it's just, it's different everywhere you go. And it's the long game, especially in a small town where, you people get to know you, and they get to know you for one thing or another. So you got to be very conscious of how you're treating people and how you're approaching things.
Yeah.
100%. Well, it all starts with love, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
well, going back a little bit, you said that you got the highest votes of 6 people because you're on the city council.
Yeah.
So basically you came in and the whole town loved you.
I think, my campaign signs.
That's how we
my
see it.
yard
Yeah,
signs,
right.
Yeah.
So I was like,
We're pretty good.
yeah, what was that like being able to do that? And
It was surprising to me. It was a blessing. I mean, there were 6 people running for 3 seats.
Yeah.
And maybe some people just wanted to see something a little different, a change. I think I got myself out there pretty good, and we had like a meet the candidates thing, not literally like a debate, but kind of a speaking forum. And I think I just tried to answer from the heart and to people's hearts. And I think it was just a lot of goodwill in the community from serving and loving people. In fact, someone who was stepping off city council, they asked my wife first if she wanted, and she was like, "No, not my thing. You should ask my husband." I'm like, I'll be a second choice. So
like, it's fine.
I think she would have got even more votes than me. But, yeah.
That's That's funny. Yes.
Well, she is amazing. we
so
agree
good.
with that.
Yes.
And so then what what was that like? Just so people know, because we talk a lot in our civics ministry about Christians should be out there, should be out running for office, supporting candidates, being involved, going to sitting in on school board meetings, doing all of those things. So this is something that you have done, right? You've taken that and you decided to take it to the next level because you're already doing a lot in the town. But going in so that you can, why should Christians be on city government like that? Why should we do that?
My first thought is, if you say, look, we're just going to keep it separate and we shouldn't get involved in politics, then who is involved in politics?
Right.
Not us.
It's good.
Who is on city council? Who is, making decisions for your school boards and your local government and beyond? It was never meant for us to be completely out of it. Now, that being said, our God is big enough that he doesn't need legislation to help people believe in him. So we don't legislate faith and push things, to try and make everybody church folk, but we should be just as unashamed about our beliefs and our background and our viewpoints when we come to the table as folks are on the other side of theirs, and loving about it. You've got your viewpoint, I've got mine, and just expressing it in such a way that, yes, these are my convictions. Now you want to ask me a policy question, go for it, and then we'll try and answer that.
Right. And we do see a lot of where people think that those things should be separate. But it isn't. What kinds of things does the city council, just so people know, because I think a lot of people don't, people pay attention. We talk about this quite a bit, both on the podcast and in like civics ministry things that we do here, but people pay a lot of attention at the top. Like they pay the attention to the federal, even the federal level. And they don't, they forget how important, or they've never been taught, or they don't pay attention, or whatever the reason is, to those local offices are, in my opinion, more important because you have the most impact. They affect your day-to-day life the most. Like what happens at a school board or a city council affects your day-to-day life more so than what the president does on a given day. Right. I mean, there's certain things, like if we go to war or something like that it does affect, but it takes a while for stuff to trickle down. But things that happen on a local level at your state legislature, at a school board, at a city council, those things really have a huge impact on your life. And people are not paying attention at all, like for the most part, at all, to what's happening in those things. They don't even know who's on their city council.
They don't even know who their representative is.
They don't know what city
people,
council
honestly,
does,
so.
right? I mean, they may feel things that are impacted by the city council, but they don't realize that that's where it comes from. And then I think people think that like the federal government can fix everything, and that's not the case. It's really the local government that is so important. So what kinds of things does the city government, like at the local level, what kinds of things are you dealing with at the local level?
Like you said, the local level is probably the most important, and everything should be made at the lowest level possible because those folks have been voted in to represent that specific area. They have that area's interest in mind, and the federal government, they just don't know all of our different areas and needs and
That's
types,
a great point.
The way that they should for the types of decisions they're trying to make. So it should be localized as much as possible. So you should be very passionate about knowing who they are, what their job is, who's running. And so city council, at the least, they will vote any city legislation into place. So when your city changes or passes a law and you have to put your trash can out on a different day, whatever the laws are, the city council voted on that typically and did that. So these are the people that, like you said, are going to be affecting it the most. Some city councils, every council position has a working position in the city also. Some of them, they come and they look at the issues and they vote once a month, and they vote things, the budget and so forth. And budget, of course, has a huge effect. What we're going to spend our city's money on shows where the heart of the matter is. And some of them have, more working roles. They'll each have a duty, something different in the city. So they're going to make the impact.
How many people are on the city council?
In Hilda, there's 5.
5, okay. Yeah, so 5 people are deciding all the things about the city, right? And does that include like zoning things and roads and like where they're allowed to put buildings and those kind of things are all determined at city council level?
And that's people's
law
lives.
Enforcement, right? I mean, I know that's the case here, that the police and those are overseen by the city council. and even like the parks and things like
Yes.
that, right? So those are where we live. That's your day-to-day life, is where you drive down the street to go to work, and the parks and what building pops up next to your school, or you know, those kind of things that are.
Yeah, our city council made the parade laws this year, and that was a little contentious for some, you know, so they didn't get into, you know, quite a few things. I'm fairly libertarianish, you know, like if we don't have to legislate it, leave it alone.
Leave it alone, yeah.
And we're in an area that's pretty friendly to that, but yeah, it still gets into the weeds a bit.
Yeah. And so what city council meets once how often do you meet?
We meet once a month, and then plus special sessions.
Okay.
So if we need something to really dig in or figure out what's going on with, you know, an issue, or prep for a vote that's kind of, you know, deep in the issue, then we'll have a working session, you know, once or twice in the month before we get together, and then we'll communicate throughout the month and look at the packet that's being put together for legislation that month, and we'll, you know, be in and out or communicate with folks at City Hall too.
Okay, awesome.
And do you what is public input like in that? So
in our small town, it's pretty neat. Like when someone wants to know something, you know, they want to ask a local representative, either they already have my cell phone number or they reach out on Messenger or something, and they say, hey, my neighbor's had his water heater out on the porch for 3 months. What's the law for that? And I'll try and find it out for them. You know,
That's
why do
so
we have to
funny.
not water our lawns this month, and when is that going to change? And so just informing them, and trying to, you know, support them. Before a really contentious vote, you'll usually get a lot of public input, you know, calling you up and saying, hey, this is how I feel about this, or what I'd really like to see.
Yeah.
You know, we just listen to them, thank them, and say, you should show up and speak at the meeting. You know, either way, whichever the way their feelings are, they should come and have their voice be heard. You know, we're discouraged from doing Facebook polls for those kind of, because the local Facebook is off the chain. It's a small town. But,
it's a small
It's a small town Facebook. I
Yeah.
can imagine.
yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it feels like a Mayberry kind of a, like, where everybody knows, right? And so
Yeah.
I think that in small towns it's different than in big cities with that local stuff, because the small towns, okay, who gets elected for sheriff, who gets on the city council, all those things are very personal because they know each other more intimately than you do in a city like the size of Phoenix.
Yeah.
We don't even pay attention to what's going on in the city council, and we should, because they're doing a lot of nefarious things in the Phoenix City Council that there are just some horrible people on the Phoenix City Council, and nobody pays attention to it.
Yeah.
Because we don't know people.
Exactly. Well, we don't know, and we are just busy going about your life, and then you look up and you're like, wait, what happened?
When did that change?
Yeah, exactly. And so now that's like our biggest thing is like, no, people, you have to start paying attention now. Like,
I think
so.
you can sell tamales in the parking lot at Walmart now. Great for them. You know, take your chances. That's
Do love
fine.
tamales, so.
I buy Walmart parking lot tamales whenever I can, but the city shut down some of our church on the street outreach,
Here in
giving
Phoenix.
out food. Yeah.
Ah, yes.
And they had to be all prepackaged food after
Right.
that. So it seems a little.
Well, we had a
sometimes.
conversation actually at the beginning. It was Allison and I, but we had a conversation with Perry Bauer about that, about how they used to go and cook hot dogs and give out hot dogs,
Yeah.
and they couldn't, like, they weren't then able to do that. The city council changed something, and there was a whole thing about whether they could get, like, it wasn't Dream Center, but I remember about giving free haircuts to people and like weird things that they get really, and this is one of the things that we've talked about quite a bit, but that people, I think, in the church don't realize how much what the government does can either help or hinder.
The church itself.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Absolutely. I know that when we started to see things happening in certain administrations, and Dream City said, all right, we're going to speak about it. We're going to lean into it. We're going to talk about what our values are and how that affects, you know, whether we should be in government. Some people were kind of standoffish about it. And, you know, some people asked me about it. And I said, look, whether we like it or not, politics has come to the church door.
Right.
They're telling us what we can and cannot do, how we can do outreach. They're telling us about our bathrooms and all kinds of things. So they're here already, and they're changing church because we stepped away from changing culture.
That's a really good line.
Clip that.
I know.
That'll preach.
That'll preach. That's really good.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Yeah. Did you have another question, or
No,
was that
like,
it?
Yes.
Yeah. So, is there anything else that you wanted to? Any other things that you wanted to share or
I
talk
think
about?
just
Or
be unashamed. Step in with the light and the love. I mean, when the social service work that we do, when we are at a collaborative table, we're often the only conservative leaning organization at the table. But we do it, and we do it well. Don't be afraid, because the church should be in the mix, and we should be doing things. The first orphanages, church, the first hospitals, the first schools, and then universities. Churches did that, and so we do it good, and we should keep doing it.
Amen. That's so good. So,
and I think too, what you were saying, I just wanted to add one, because you were talking about playing a long game, right? And I think that the people that have been trying to remove God from all those things have been playing a long game for decades.
Absolutely.
And so we're just all of a sudden, it's like, it feels like it happened all of a sudden, but it's really been happening for decades, that they have been coming in and removing the 10 Commandments, removing prayer at a school, removing this, telling the church to go back into a corner, doing all of these things. Yeah. And so then it feels like it happened suddenly, but we get in a hurry and we think that, we should be able to fix things right away. Well, no, we've got to have that long game mentality as well, because there is a lot of ground. I mean, God is sovereign, and he's able to do anything, but we can't be short-sighted in, you look at Jeremiah that preached forever and never saw a single conversion, right? I mean, those things are long game. Or even just on a political end, right? You have Susan B. Anthony, who worked for years to get the vote and never actually got to vote herself, right? She laid that foundation and those seeds. Not saying it's going to take that long, because I feel like things do tend to speed up, in the end times or whatever point in history we are. But we do have to have that long game mentality, I think, and realize that we're fighting something that's been built over decades.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
Awesome. So good. Well, how can people get involved?
Yes.
With Short Creek Dream Center, any outreach things that you guys do up there?
Yeah, we're at shortcreekdreamcenter.org, and there's about us, and there's get involved. We love having mission teams come up. Okay. We have a whole bunkhouse for that, and we have a world-class missions program. We do custom itineraries and everything. And that's a huge blessing for our little team to be able to do big work in the community and just raise Christ all around, and just help hurting people. Of course, if you wanted to become a supporter, shop on our Amazon wish list, those things are all on the website too. And if you're ever in the area of Colorado City, Arizona, Hildale, Utah, come by, ring the doorbell at the Dream Center, and we'd love to show you around.
Awesome.
It is beautiful.
ShortCreekDreamCenter.org.
Yeah, take a missions team from your group or church and go up there and work. It's amazing. I've been up there. It's really worth it. You've been up there too, haven't you? Yeah, I've been up there. Yeah, so good. Well, thank you so much. I was so excited to have you come. I'm just so thankful that you're here. We appreciate you so much, and thank you for joining us on Into the Fire, powered by Dream City Church.
You can listen to this podcast on Apple and Spotify, and follow us on social media. Find all the info on the show notes. To learn more about Dream City Church, visit our website at dreamcitychurch.us. Thanks for listening.